you need to be investing in yourself. And I'm a big advocate for self-care, self-investment, because your children are your priority. Absolutely. And my husband, but I am too.
I am super excited to have Cate Williams, who is the founder and creative mind behind the Inspire Collective, which is a collective of creative entrepreneurial women here in Perth and Western Australia. And I really wanted to talk to her about what is it like to be an introverted, creative, and leader when you just want to hide and write songs and paint and do things that are not involving a ton of people. What's that process like? What is it like to be an introverted creative? I mean, how many of you are listening going, yes, that's me. I have so many dreams, but I just don't know how to get them out there, or I'm too afraid of what people are going to say. And I feel like sometimes I'm swirling around in all these ideas, and yet I have to do laundry and dishes and kids pickups and, talk about stuff at mothers groups isn't as interesting as I want, but I just want to have this beautiful, juicy, creative space. And how do you flow in that journey? So this is an awesome podcast. It's real, it's honest, it's transparent. And I think it's one that so many of us are like, yes, that's totally me. So enjoy this podcast. So I wanted to bring on Cate Williams because she is a force to reckon with when it comes to empowering women in a really creative space. And I have just been in awe of what you have created in the last year. It's been incredible to watch you with everything else that you do. So, Cate, I really just wanted to bring you on also because I think there's so many women who would identify themselves as creatives, but introverted extroverts. Have you heard of that term?
I have, yes.
Where you're gregarious and you're out there, but like really inside, you're like, I just want to sit on the couch and watch Netflix, or I want to read a book, or I want to paint, or I want to sing songs. Yeah. So, Cate, just tell us a little bit about, I guess, your journey in your creative space and where you are at the moment, and then I'll ask you some questions about your path.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Mish. It's really, I love talking about this kind of thing because I think for many years I was a frustrated creative and I didn't really have a sense of my authentic voice. And I really think that, the Inspire Collective has been birthed out of me discovering that. So in primary school, I was this shy little kid who was put in the corner of the room by the music teacher because I didn't open my mouth properly when I was singing. And I've had a history all through when I was little of just being misunderstood, misrepresented, I guess, because of this creative self that I've had and, the introversion on top of that. I think introverts get a bit of a bad rap, and particularly creative introverts, because you have this voice, you have this creative thing inside of you, but unless you are empowered and that is nurtured by somebody else who sees it in you, often it just stays buried. So I think, the Inspire Collective started at the Lounge Room. We're going on to our 4th year now. So 4 years ago, I just gathered a group of women in my home, and they came from all walks of life, and I'd had relationship with them over the course of a period of 20 years. Some I hadn't seen since uni days. Others were current friends. Others were people I knew from, mother's group, that kind of thing. And we just gathered in my lounge room, and the point was I was going to mentor them in their creative pursuits. And it very quickly became something that took on a life of its own, because we all realised that unless you're journeying with people who are like-minded in that kind of area, you don't often feel like you can authentically express who you are, particularly if you are kind of introverted, extroverted person. You sit on that border. So does that answer your question?
Yeah, it totally does. And I love what you said about 2 things I really loved, and we can kind of touch on both of them. The first is, how did you find your authentic voice? What has that process been like for you?
Been a really hard process, if I'm being really honest.
Yeah, no, I love it. Be as honest as possible, please.
Well, I think being an introvert, and I'm an INFJ, which is one of the rarest it is the rarest personality type. Apparently 1% of the population is what I am. And that just means that I am somebody who operates very much out of my intuitive leadership space. So I see things way down the track, and so that will either stop me in my tracks from attempting something, or it will make me even more determined to go that way. So, from very little, I've had this really strong intuition, but I was extremely shy in school and I knew I loved to sing. I loved to sing, but I'd sing in the shower. And when I was 20, I had this experience where I joined this music team at church, never sung before in public, and there I was on a stage in front of 1,000 people in this church. And that was kind of like my first experience. And, the whole way through that 4-year period when I was in as part of this team, I just immersed myself in that experience. But, I didn't get stage fright or anything like that. It was different. It was almost like the pressure from others for me to smile more or kind of role that I'm supposed to be this performer, when that's not who I am. I'm really, introverts are not necessarily performers. They're deep, they're very introspective, bordering on extremely private, but they still have this huge capacity for expression and creativity. So, some of those experiences where I was, I guess, judged or misjudged and seen as somebody that I should be more, I should smile more and I should be more kind of outgoing and this kind of thing, which would apparently, mold better with be the others, the yin and the yang of the person, the creative side that I had. I just felt like that just wasn't going to happen. So I got frustrated. I went through this whole process of, I'm not good enough. I need to change. I need to like people more. I need to.
I absolutely love that. Oh my gosh, that is so me sometimes. I need to like people more. Oh my gosh. I always say to people, I'm like,
I love people, and introverts have this mass.
Sometimes I just
have this capacity. Sorry, you go, Mish.
No, I was just going to say, like, I do too. I like people as well, but I also find because, like, I think I'm ENFP. So we've got the middle bit together. And like when you're intuitive and you're a feeler, like you're like, you've got just like extra nerve endings. And so you just want to go there. You just like want to take, you want to get the meaty topics, and you thrive on kind of that philosophical chewing of things and concepts and ideas, and not necessarily for an end point, just because it's interesting to kind of turn over. And I have always struggled with, and maybe you have as well, like I call it like, I shouldn't say this is so bad, but like kind of like the moms group or like the drop off conversations are super superficial, which I know is just polite small talk. That is exhausting for me. But if you want to talk about like the moral ethics of like a specific thing or a war or a policy, I'm like all in, 100% all in.
Me too. I can so relate to that. It's so funny that you say that, because that's one of the things that I would beat myself up over.
Me too.
Why don't I like doing it? Just
yes.
Talk is something that is going to take you to a place of depth, or it's almost it's like this. And introverts understand this. I don't know that. If you're an introvert and you're listening, you'll be like, yeah, it's so true, Kate. It's so true. But it's just connection is really important to an introvert. And if you're not talking about something that means something, or that has like this kind of extra purpose to it, or that there's meaning in it, then it's just exhausting.
I also loved how you talked about how people said that you should act a certain way. Like in order to be successful, you need to be smiling more and more polite and more kind and more gregarious and more available, when inside you're like, that's not who I am.
And, I think that has been probably one of the most difficult parts of my journey. There are always people who you are rubbing shoulders with who can do that. And somehow you are disqualified as a leader, because we live in this age of big personality. It's the culture of personality, and culture of hustle. And it's almost like if you have that extroverted personality type, it's almost seen as more superior. So I
totally agree.
I've walked next to extroverts and we both complement one another. I'm not saying, there's a place for both. I think that's really important to say that. But I think as an introverted leader, you do get a bad rap because you are somehow seen as a little bit less of a leader. And so I guess for me, going through all of that has been profound. And it's been the last number of years where I've really felt like I've come into my own and I can authentically stand and be Cate Williams, the introverted creative, and be totally happy with that and not feel the pressure. And, when people say to me, you disappeared after a big event for a week, which I so I'll go underground because that's my processing time. And that's I don't need to communicate right now because I'll get drained, but I'll come back and I will resurface when I'm ready. Know that I love you. Know that, I'm still leading this thing, but that's okay. So that time alone, your best thinking is done in those alone places. And then you come back. So
I love how you've given yourself permission, like after an event, because this is something I have not done well. So I think I am extroverted, but also the term empath or like highly sensitive, or like I just get kind of like overwhelmed by all of the stuff because I feel so deeply, just like you feel like there's so much to like download, like your file is just so big. And one of the things I did not do well was when I went to something or create an event, I would just jump to the next thing. I wouldn't have intentional rest. And I just got back from Melbourne on this amazing work-life balance conference, which was so good. And I actually gave myself Monday off because I knew that if I didn't spend time allowing myself to decompress and give myself full permission for that, I wouldn't do anything anyways. So I love that you talk about that. I'd love to know when you're working through hard seasons, like when you've had over 20 years of doing kind of creative, introverted stuff, and you've just said just in the last couple of years, or maybe in the last couple of months, you've really come into your own. What was a pivoting moment for you in that decision to say, you know what, this is me and I'm happy with this?
I think it's a combination of things. Like a true introvert, I can't just give you one reason. And when I did my album, I think about this a lot, but, I did an album about 4 going on 5 years ago now, I think. And that was a real pivotal moment for me to step up into my authentic voice and living that and being seen as I'm worship leading in church. And the songs that I wrote on this particular album, Dance of Life, really were journey songs. They were the songs that you couldn't necessarily sing in a church setting, but you could sing just in your car, with the radio up. And that was an important moment for me and my trajectory, the direction that I was going in as a leader, as a creative, as an introvert, as a woman, because I stepped into an authentic place of who I really was. Let a lot of the stuff, because we're so private as introverts, I let a lot of the stuff on, my true heart be seen. And for me to do that, it changed the game. I think when you step up into being seen, you allow people to see your ability. You don't floodlight them, as Brené Brown talks. You don't give them all the stuff, because then people get a little bit scared off. But you give them enough to know that, you're not a perfectionist. You're human. You have vulnerabilities. You are identifiable. When I did that, it was a watershed moment for me. And you said about the last couple of months in my own leadership journey, particularly with the Inspire Collective. As I've said, we've been running for 4 years. The last 3 months, we've stepped up a notch. So we've just launched a magazine. We're starting off with other events, little girls collectives, that kind of thing. And I went through a few months there of really going, okay, is this what I want to be investing in right now? Is this what I want to be devoting everything? Because the Inspire Collective for me is a full-time job. But it's a passion project too. That's the thing. I'm so passionate about it. So do I want to be doing this? And I had a bit of a moment there, where I'm like, this could potentially be my life the next 10, 15 years. I started a small group in my home. It's become what it has. Is this who I am now? Is this what I want to do? Is this, what I'm going to sow my years into? Do you know what I mean? And with that, there's also also a cost. You know, it's not just like, oh, you know, you're just running this great little group of buddies. There's very real cost being on the front line when you're putting your neck out and you're going, this is what we're doing, this is what I represent, these are my values. And, you know, I just feel very blessed at the moment that people have aligned with those values and that vision and are coming alongside. And so, yeah, so the last few months have been an interesting transitional time, but I feel like we've just kicked this new level of momentum by going through that really difficult, crushing process that I've gone through in the last number of months. And, you know, I mean, every leader, every person who has created or is pioneering something that is bringing change and is significant in some way into other people's lives or making an impact, I think goes through it. I don't think you can escape it because it grounds you and it really broadens your capacity to be able to carry that into the next, wherever you need to go.
I think what you said, two things are really important there. The first one is the ability to be seen, right? And recognizing that when you decided to be seen, it was you who was being seen, not somebody else's idea of what you should be. And that was a reckoning for you. Like, that's a watershed moment.
Absolutely massive. And, you know, just on that, I think we need people to see us. And I think that's why the Inspire Collective and why other groups that champion particularly women are so critical, because people need to be seen. And women particularly need to be seen, and we need to be heard. We all have a story. Everybody has their story, and I find that a lot of people don't think their own story is valid for some reason. So they disqualify themselves. Or they don't enough in this space. And I think when you have just one person say, I want to hear your story and your story has worth and value, you immediately give them permission to be brave and to risk and to start to go, hang on a second, I have a voice and my voice has power. And my voice, you know, in my own journey, my voice is actually my song voice, but everybody has a particularly their own voice. So whether it's a creative voice or it's through painting or photography or art or drama or some kind of artisan craft, whatever it is, the written word, as soon as people see something in that voice that they identify with, it's like something just explodes and is catalyzed in that woman's life. And I've seen it through the collective so many times, and that's what excites me. I think, you know, just going back to what you've said, people need to be seen.
Totally. And they also need to be in a space that's so nurturing. So with the Inspire Collective,
my vision started as really just coming alongside and championing creative women to pursue their best selves. So to pursue gifts that God has given in life, and to awaken those gifts, to see them nurtured, and then empower them to walk in the fullness of that. So it's not just, you know, people can have a hobby, but, you know, I believe that we've all been given certain talents.
I agree.
And it's our job to be responsible and to steward those. And I also believe, you know, when you do that, you it's almost like this self-generation multiplication effect. As soon as you start being faithful with what you've been given in your hands, there's this multiplication and you get more. And so that's really a massive premise of the Inspire Collective, to live a full life. And I guess I've found that in my own life. And, you know, Mish, I'm sure that you have too, because you have this huge, big capacity and big life. You know, it's like, I'll do that. Yeah, I'll do that. And you find that the more you say, yes, I'll do that, and submit yourself to the process and be faithful with what you've got, it's like you're given more. So that's what I've seen. I've seen women, you know, it's amazing. It is. It's amazing, and I'm still overwhelmed by it. But I guess I see such value in what it does for women. It's been transforming women's lives. People have been starting businesses. They've been, you know, selling art. And it's just with that little spark of, you know what, I can do this. Yeah. And that's all I need. And other people, that's the importance of community and that connection aspect, and having a tribe with them, call it. Other people around them whispering in their ear, hey, I'll buy your art, or hey, I love what you've done there. It's just this spark and becomes a fire.
It's such a beautiful, it was kind of random. Our mutual friend of ours, she's like, I was up in Perth. I really wanted to go, but it was the first one that I could go to was sold out. And she's like, I've got this extra ticket randomly. Ha ha ha. It's never random. I was up in Perth, had a spare night. She had a spare ticket. The hotel was literally 250 meters away from where you guys are holding the Inspire Collective. Wow. And I walked in and I actually, I think I even said to you, I don't remember because you didn't really know who I was. And I just thought, this is going to go global. Wow. This is global. This isn't just a Perth thing. This is a movement that women are craving. And the thing that even I'm craving as a creative is community. We live busy lives, but just everything about your guys' events are so different from like any other female kind of networking thing I've ever been to. It's real, it's authentic, it's honest, it's really different. And I think what you're doing is, it's harder because like you said, it's not hustle, it's not rah-rah, it's not 2 + 2 = you're going to make 6 figures. It's a slow burn. You know, like it's a champion of everyone. And that to me is so it's actually what people are looking for, but they think that their worth comes from what they can produce or what fame they can acquiesce, when really what the conversation is about, which is exactly what you're saying, is, are you listening to your inner wisdom? Are you listening to your divine gifts? Are you following that calling? And are you surrounding people who are going to champion you?
So good. That's so right. And that's basically what we do.
It is what you guys do.
I've been to other things as well, you know, other women's events, and I think that they all have a place, but there is definitely something unique on the Inspire Collective.
It's beautiful.
That aspect of hustle. And there isn't that aspect, I guess, of elitism. You know, we're not looking at somebody who's got the polished life. We're looking at the process and the journey. As creatives, gosh, you know, if you get 4 or 5 days, or even as a woman, full stop, you get 4 or 5 days that are you know, you're ticking all the boxes. Yes, you know, I'm kicking it as a mom, whatever, you know, I'm kicking it as a wife, lucky, you know, I'm kicking it as a business entrepreneur, as, you know, blah, blah, blah. And if you can do that, you know, a minimum of a few days, then I think we're all at that category where we should all be worshipped, you know what I mean? Because it's
totally
so darn hard.
It is.
Yeah, and I think we need to see more of that, and yeah.
I just think we need to see more grace and authenticity, and I think that's what you're bringing about. Like, you know, I think it's so good. I was actually going to ask you a question about how has your faith played a role in this process, especially when you were putting yourself out there or you were in a big season of discernment?
Good question. I think my faith is always forefront. I couldn't do that, what I do, without an absolute reliance on God and a realization that in every area of my life, He needs to be Lord.
Yeah.
Even when I'm like, yeah, nailed that, Kate, there'll be the next day, there'll be like hang on a second, have a think about this, you know, and it's almost like there's always these moments of being able to come back to a place of humility. 14-year-old son, you know, I'll have the most amazing event, the Inspire Collective, and then next morning, conversations with my husband or my son or my daughter, and I'm like, whoa, okay, we're right back down to ground.
Yeah.
And that is life, right? It's just life. And so I think, you know, my faith in that, I'm constantly on my knees because and I think that's a really safe place to be because you know, I've got nothing without God, and this whole collective, if I'm being really honest, you know, this is His idea, and I'm just the one who's been privileged enough to steward it.
Such a beautiful way of looking at it.
You know, I don't want to mess with this because what it is divinely breathed, and so that makes me even more aware of every decision that I make, that I'm making it with Him in mind, with people's hearts in mind. It's not about what $1,000. It's, you know, it's about people, and that, yeah, it keeps me very grounded. So, yeah.
I think okay, so I just want to ask you, I love that, because I think that the more that we recognize be it Christian faith or whatever, if we create a centeredness around what we are feeling called to do and stop focusing on the external markers of success, like, you know, all the things that, you know, is kind of thrown at us in the world, we create something very beautiful. In saying that, I absolutely loved what you said about, I had this amazing event, and you come home, and God bless my husband, I love him. He's like, so what was so great about it? And you're like, I don't know, it was just so amazing. He's like, that's great, baby. Do you want to go watch the footy? And you're like, what just happened? Like, I was floating on this, like, you know, like Aladdin carpet, and then you just went bang, like bang. So how does that ever happen to you where you're just like,
all the time? And I think that's a deliberate ploy of God, because, you know, it's like, well played, Kate. This is life. And so, and I use this term, balancing the fulcrum. Like, okay, I can't just have my head in. And as an introverted creative, honestly, I could live on a desert island and just live, breathe, inspire, collective, and forget to feed my children. When I get that creative flow, same goes with songwriting, right? I just lose track of time. I lose track of anybody else, whatever. And I can't live like that. That's not real, you know. So I need to be shaken up sometimes and go, hang on a second, you have a family to feed right now. Yeah, oh, look, I just think our lives are complex as women. And, you know, 10, 15 years ago, we would not even be having this conversation.
No.
Because these opportunities that we're getting as women right now didn't even exist. Because the world of social media and of entrepreneurialism and the ability to project a voice from your house, for example, women weren't championed in the way that they are now and weren't able to have those vehicles. So, you know, I think it was easier in a lot of ways, but now we're having to juggle all these things, and I wouldn't want life any other way.
I love that.
I think that if I was just a mum, I would be so bored, and I would feel like I was, you know, not living a full life. And I think it's really about wisdom and just balancing that fulcrum.
Yeah, I love that. I love that you just said, because I had so much, I mean, I'm all for women being at home. Like, I'm all for people just rocking motherhood. Like, totally. I think that women have that access, but I also love what you just said of that would bore me to death. And I still probably have a little bit of guilt. Like, aren't you fulfilled enough in motherhood? Like, why aren't you fulfilled in motherhood? Why don't you want to sit with your daughter and play Barbies for 5 hours straight? You know, I would literally die. Like, my brain would die. But I think it's important for women to see all sides of that and to celebrate all seasons, because I think there is this kind of punishment a little bit around, oh, well, you don't like motherhood, or why aren't you going to work? It's like, it's okay to be either or both.
It's totally okay, as long as when there are needs, and that's the whole balancing the fulcrum thing, when there's a family need, you just push it that way, and you rest in that space for a while. When the family's doing okay, you can take a breather, and you can do it full time, 24 hours, 7 days a week. Your children at one point are going to grow up and they're going to leave your house, and we have this time right now to invest in them and develop them and form their character so that they can be self-sustaining adults. But eventually you're going to be left with you and your husband. You know?
Yeah.
So, and that goes, I have a 14-year-old now, and he was in nappies yesterday.
I know
where that time goes, you know, and I spent so much of that time lamenting having to change those nappies and going,
yes,
where's my sleep? And now I'm in a totally different phase of motherhood, and I'm looking towards the next 10 years where I'm going to be at home with my husband, and I think that's a really good shift for women to make and to see long term, because you need to be investing in yourself. And I'm a big advocate for self-care, self-investment, because your children are your priority. absolutely. And my husband, but I am too.
I love that permission. It's so important.
Give yourself permission. And I didn't for years. And I remember, just going, you know what? I could either live in my tracksuit pants for the rest of my life. That's not doing anybody any favors. I'm going to actually look after myself and look after my physical appearance, what I eat, all that kind of thing, because when you feel better, you make other people feel better. And it's just very important.
I just love that permission. Like, I think that's one of the things that when I coach women the most, like, it's a reoccurring theme of ask for what you need. If no one's putting you in the cage, then stop putting yourself in the cage. I think Inspired Collective gives women that really gentle and nourished space to be able to say, oh, I can do this, or I can speak about this. And you would not know in that room if someone made $10,000 a day or $10,000 a year. You have absolutely no idea. And that's what I love about that space. Everything is equal.
Deliberate culture building, and I think that's important. I have a saying, it's on our website, and this was all the stuff that we believe in, that we advocate through the collective, is all really come from different things that I've gone through. And, one of the big catch cries over the collective is it's a no judgment zone.
Yeah.
So you can come with a life totally messed up, whatever that looks like or whatever that means, or you can come with a life that, has all your boxes ticked. Nobody's going to care, because that's where you're at. And I love that people can still feel that sense of inclusion.
Yes, I love it.
Of being celebrated when they feel like their life is in a place of, in a really bad place. That's really important to me. So yes, we're a bunch of creatives gathering to nurture and to champion one another on and inspire, but we are also very inclusive. And I think that the message that sends to people is that, I don't have to be perfect. I can be authentically who I am. And then that gives them permission to explore their creative bent wherever they're at, and not to say, I'm disqualified because my life's, not the place that I want it to be.
I love that. So as we just kind of wrap up today, if there's a woman out there they're like raising their hand high, they're like, oh my gosh, you're speaking my language. I feel like I can't be seen, or I have so much in my heart and my mind that I want to get out, but I feel like I don't know where to start. What would your advice be to them when it comes to kind of letting themselves kind of come out of that cage and exercising their creative muscle?
You know what? I'm saying this as an introvert, and I don't even know if I would have taken my own advice, but it's easy to stay isolated, and then isolation breeds a sense of disconnection, and a sense that you don't belong to anything or anyone or anywhere. It doesn't help with generating any kind of alignment or momentum towards reaching your goals or creativity. It's a disenfranchising kind of experience. So I would say find one person, even if it's you, Mish, that you're a coach. Find that one person that you can just have a bit of a conversation with and say, this is where I'm at right now, but this is actually where I want to be. Because we all have those dreams inside of us. Like, you might be in a season where your dream is shut down, and that's okay. You might not even want to be exploring that. But if you are in a season where you're frustrated or where you feel like there's more to your life, find that one person, or even if you really don't want to do that, take it to God and write it down. That's what I do a lot of the time. I journal. I'm a heavy journaler. This is where things are at. I don't like this. This is what I see for my life. This is what I want. Because when you poise your heart towards a vision and a goal, and you connect that with God, and then you connect it with a person for accountability's sake, or a community, even better, that you just start to get traction to those things without even trying, almost. So that's...
I love what you said about... sorry for cutting you off. I just love what you said about don't live in isolation, because it's so easy, even with social media, to have a very false sense of connection.
Oh, I'm surrounded by people. I'm constantly connecting, but authentic connection is very rare. So I have probably a handful of friends that I can authentically connect with. One of those people is my mum. And I think in this age of social media, we're connecting all the time, but we're not face to face. We're not doing any of that deep stuff. And particularly, I guess for my personality, I need to be making those deep connections. Important, that is important. Otherwise you get really, cynical.
You do get cynical. I agree. I think it's a good topic. I think it's a really important topic. And I think that it's a topic that everyone, if you're an introvert or an extrovert, doesn't really matter. Because one of the things that I have really in this season in my life at the moment that I cannot shake is, yes, it's nice that I have people that follow me. And yes, it's nice that people know who I am. And sometimes I'll meet people and they'll be like, oh, I know who you are. I've watched your whatever on Instagram or whatever. Yeah. But I'm like, I want people that know me, and I want to be able to be in community and relationship where there's authenticity, which begs the question of, am I seeking it? Am I actively pursuing that? And also, if I can't find it, am I creating it? And I love what you've done is that you didn't find it, so you just created it, and you've held that vision for 4 years, and that you're aligned with who you are, and you're becoming less flat in that space. I think is so beautiful. So where can we find you, Cate? Where can we find you online? How can people connect with you in Perth, and then also if they're not in Perth?
Okay, so the Inspire Collective has a website with www.inspirecollective.com.au, and our event information is on there. We meet every 3 months at the platform space in Perth, in Adelaide Terrace in the CBD. They're great events. They do sell out, so you do have to get a ticket quickly, but you can subscribe to our mailing list, and there's a membership option, or there's a free membership if you just want information. So that's the way to connect with the Inspire Collective. We're also on social media everywhere. We're on Instagram as Inspire Collective, and also on Facebook. We have a community page with about 1,300 women involved there. And we have a membership group, Dream Builders. But you can find me. Do I want you to find me?
Yeah.
Yes, I do.
Yes.
It's funny. I was challenged a couple of years ago to make my Instagram profile public. And I'm like, why would I want to do that? A friend who you know as well said, look, people have to be able to access you. So, yes, you can find me on social media. I would love to be your friend. And I'm just at Cate. My name's spelled with a C, so CATE_Williams.
And also you guys have a magazine coming out, which I'm sure they can find on the website. And for those of you who are local to WA, or if you want to fly over, if you're part of the Dream Builders, which I am, which is a yearly awesome kind of a mastermind community online, you guys are doing your retreat in August, and I legit cannot wait to go. I'm like, see you later, Andrew. Have a good weekend. I'm out.
It's going to be awesome.
I know.
Oh, look. It's in the southwest of Western Australia.
Oh.
All the things you should not be eating and drinking.
I know. And there's a scavenger hunt. I'm in. There's a scavenger hunt. That's it. I don't even care what we do. This is so much fun. It's going to be awesome.
It's going to be great.
I know. And I just know it's going to go big. The first moment I was there, I was like, this is not just a Perth thing. And I think what you're creating for women is exactly what women are wanting. And I think having a permission about being an introverted creative, and also, knowing that you need to nourish yourself outside of a certain season or certain state is so important. So thank you so much for being such a important voice for women in this journey that sometimes isn't often heard all the time, but is really, really, really validating for so many of us. So thank you, Cate.
My pleasure. And honestly, I feel the same about you, Mitch. So what you do, girl.
Oh, thank you.
Do it.
Well, exactly. Well, make sure you guys check out Inspire Collective. And again, thank you so much, Cate, for your time.
Thank you. Bless you, everybody.
Bye. Thank you for joining me today. If you'd like more information about myself, my journey, my public speaking engagements, or life coaching with me, please head to my website, mishpope.com. If you can kindly leave me a beautiful review on iTunes, I would be forever grateful. I can't wait to connect again in the next episode.